Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of AngularAir. I am your host, Justin. And on today's episode, we're going to have a discussion around some new stuff. I'm not going to say it, even though you can see the title and the thing for whatever, but I'm not going to say it because I have a slide deck and the slide intro has the name of it. So we'll just keep it a mystery. Just don't look at the title of this video. So it's just me and the panelists today. I'm feeling a little silly. It's Friday. Mike, how's it going?
Going what? Oh, hold on. I got.
Oh, you're playing.
Wait. Crap. Okay.
I know how
I was
it's
opening up
going now.
YouTube to watch comments and to be able to chat, and I didn't do that well. So going well. Thanks for asking.
Nice. And Alyssa, how's it going?
Oh, really, really good. I've been traveling the last 2 weeks. So I went to St. Louis for DevUp, and then this last week was VS Live in Austin. Both amazing conferences. Would highly recommend. I'm going to put them on my must-do next year list. But I'm really glad to be back at home and with you guys on air.
Nice. So you say those two locations. I immediately just think like food. Did you eat some yummy food or
So much good. I was like, everything I put in my mouth is like 10 out of 10.
so good?
I said,
Wow.
Meryl, is there like drugs in the air that's like making, she was my friend with me and she was like, no, you're just crazy. And I was like, okay.
That's great.
I know Meryl. I love Meryl. She's awesome.
I know, she's great. And also she has like really great, like, she just got a nose for like what restaurants are going to be good. Like even if she's never been to a city. So she's a really good traveling companion. Unless you're trying to lose weight and then a bad
Then
travel.
it's bad. All right. Mike, on your recent travels, did you have any yummy food?
I did. I was at the beach in North Carolina, and I think the yummiest thing actually I had two. We did a seafood boil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so just all the different shellfish and scallops and everything else was really good. But the last night before I left, I had a seafood mac and cheese that had crab, clam, shrimp, lobster, and mac and cheese, and it was good.
I love
Wow.
that's one of the things. It's just like the fresh fish, Hey, thank you, babe.
Yeah.
Welcome. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just got a coffee delivery from Turtle Guy.
Nice.
And not as good as a crawfish delivery from Mike would have been, but I'll take it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm hungry now, but so that's all right. We'll deal with that later.
Did you have any good food, Justin?
Oh, did I have any good food?
Last
No.
2 weeks, do you have a
Last 2
memorable
weeks.
meal?
No, I just remember like the last couple minutes, so I don't remember. The last
I have to
2
take a
minutes.
call real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. See you, Mike. All right, we'll get into the slides.
Totally fine
All right.
and normal. I am so
Yeah,
excited
it's
about this topic. I'm trying to write the tweet, but you guys keep distracting me.
I know, right?
I'm here.
Middle
I'm doing
of the
it.
episode.
Oh,
All right.
God.
Got the slide deck ready. Are we ready?
Mhm.
Here we go. We are going to talk about, look at this, standalone components today. We're doing a discussion episode. So new feature that is available in Angular v14. So we're going to kind of dive into it, talk about it.
So, question.
Yes.
I haven't gotten past the title slide.
Wrong title.
I have a question, and I apologize because this
Yes.
is how it's going to go. Because there's so many things I want to know about this feature.
Okay.
So everyone talk about standalone components. Even the blog post, referred to it as standalone components. But I know that it's more than components that can be modulus. Is it just components in the preview version right now that are ready to play with, or can you do modulus? What is it? Pipes and
directives? That
Yeah.
is a really good question.
Oh,
I
God,
didn't know the
sorry.
answer. I know. Just starting off hot. Maybe Mike knows that now that he's back. But
Oh God.
Yes, it
Yeah,
should
okay.
be. It should be standalone things.
things.
Right, but like so it's not just
Change the slide.
components.
Change the slide.
It's not things. It's not just
All right.
components that you can play with right now, Mike.
Correct.
Right? Oh, okay.
All right. So next thing I want to call out is that this is developer preview right now, right? So we can test it in Angular v14, but just be aware that the API surface of it could change before like the full release. So just a little disclaimer there.
I was in a discussion about what developer preview means.
All right, you
And I
want to
think
define
it's
it?
not just the idea that the API may change, but I think there's also comes with it the idea of, hey, this isn't quite fully baked, so
What does that mean?
don't expect support for it either.
Fully baked.
It's like
Like,
when he got his mac and cheese and it was still like not
No,
complete.
not the al dente noodles. That's not what this is about.
Okay. What's it about, Mike?
Just that it's not fully ready and fully supported, fully documented, that it's not fully baked. It's
okay,
in
so
process.
when my team, I work for Progress, for those you don't know, and we have a suite of Kendo UI components. And when we say that something is in beta or, like preview, what we mean is that it's 100% ready to go, but not all accessibility features are there yet. So as soon as we have all the accessibility checkboxes that we know about, then it's like out of preview. So you're saying this isn't even like the Kendo UI beta. It's like a little bit further back because it's not just accessibility that we're missing here. We're missing.
To be clear, I don't know. It was a discussion about what it actually means, but I think it's more so the lack of support, that it may change, that it's not full final release of it. But just trying to clarify what developer preview means.
Who designed these slides, Shorty? Where did this
somebody awesome?
It's one I found on Canva.
Oh my God, I love Canva.
Yeah, right.
Are you presenting from Canva
I'm even
now?
presenting from Canva right now. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Has the animations and everything, so pretty exciting. Yeah. That's how I was able to put it together like last night. So
I'm impressed though. It looks great. Good job.
All right. Yeah. So the key here being that like we start using it and we think about using this, standalone components, just be aware that the next release, there is a potential that we may have to update some of our code, right? If something changed. So let's just go into that with that expectation. Did you want to tell me to go next slide, Mike? You can give me the slide keys.
The sass.
Go.
All right. Just looking for some help. All right. So what are we really talking about? Like, what are we going to go over, right? We're going to talk first about the NgModule world that we live in today, right? And then I do have an echo. Is somebody...
Is it me? Hang on.
Maybe.
Let me see. If I mute, does it go away?
I think it, yeah. Sounds like it. Nope. I still hear it.
Then it's me.
All right. All right. It's like this is our first time doing this. All right.
How do you stream with audio?
All right. So we'll talk about what it is today with the NgModules, just to kind of get a baseline, right? And then we'll talk about the standalone components not needing these NgModules. Then I want to talk about the routing changes. There's some pretty cool routing changes that I'm excited about. We'll see if anybody else is too. So we'll talk about those changes. And then we'll kind of wrap it up with what this might mean, right? It's like, great, this looks cool. We can use it, but what can we really do with it? And then of course we'll do picks at the end. Sound good?
Beautiful.
All right. So before standalone, let's just chat through like where we're at now and what it means to, be using NgModules and what the impact is of that. Sound good?
I'm so excited.
All right. Do you want to tell us about NgModules?
Oh, I'm just so like it's like as far as like the impact, there's still people talking whether this is a good thing or not for Angular. So I hope we get to that. Just because I feel like it's a little too late to have that discussion. So I just like kind of chuckle when I see those comments.
All right.
But no, tell us about it.
So like right now in our Angular world, but preface it with now v14, we can do these standalones, but let's say standalones aside, no pun intended, I guess. But I am a dad, so whatever. We need to declare these components inside of an NgModule, right? So we create our component, we decorate it with a component decorator. Then we need to declare it inside of an NgModule so it can be part of the application and Angular will know what to do with it, right? So that's kind of the world that we're in right now. And then when we do that, we need to really consider the size of our NgModules, right? It opens this whole door of, okay, well, I've got a component. I put it into an NgModule. Am I putting other components in that NgModule? And then what if I have a feature that just needs that one component, right? But I bring in this NgModule that has 5 components. Now, how do I think about, well, I just kind of bloated my code a little bit, my bundle, because that feature doesn't even need all 5; it just needs 1.
Hmm.
So then we start seeing solutions and things where you start thinking about like a scam pattern, right? Single component of module, and something that, Angular material adopted early of NgModule per component. And then you could have another top layer NgModule that imports all of those. So you could have like a bundle concept versus an individual concept. But these are all things that like unfold in terms of things we have to think about from an architecture standpoint when we're using NgModules, right?
And I'm assuming, because I feel like a noob asking this, but I'm assuming tree shaking doesn't take care of that for you. Like if you include a module, but you're not like using every part of that module. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, Angular is just gonna like kind of shake it away for me. Is that not?
Yeah,
is
but
that
that's
not true?
That's reliance on another tool to do something for you. It's like, I'm just gonna be sloppy and bring everything in, and you take care of it. Like it's like saying, hey, I'm gonna go grocery shopping and I'm gonna buy everything from every aisle, and then we'll just eat whatever we use, and somebody else will clean up the whatever we don't eat.
Are you stalking me? Do you know how grocery day goes?
I've seen you in aisle 7. I've seen what you've done in aisle 7.
No, I see that. I see that. It shouldn't be up to a tool or even the framework to clean up after us. But at the same time, I just was like, I just wanted to make sure I understood how it works. And I didn't even know if tree shaking would in fact take care of things like that. So that's where I was like, wait, did I misunderstand everything? Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good question. If I have an NgModule that contains 2 components and I import that NgModule into a feature, and that feature internally is only using one of those components.
Yeah.
Will the tree shake recognize that and not, and ditch that from our NgModule? I feel like it doesn't, right? I feel like the NgModule is already importing it.
Okay.
But
I feel like
maybe
it does.
You feel like it does shake it?
Yeah.
All right.
Because that's kind of
good.
What the frick?
That was my doorbell.
Maybe they have the answer. But
let's check with the doorbell. I'll be right back.
Oh God!
Oh, you were just about to ask the question. Go ask me. Go ask the UPS person if
oh my gosh, you would be surprised.
Maybe.
I like randomly find people and I'm just start having code talk with them. And I'm like, wow, does everybody at one point in time know how to
that
write some code? I feel like it's maybe. Right. These are beautiful. I cannot get away from how gorgeous. I know that like it's a template, but you still utilize the template to its maximum capacity. I'm so proud.
Thanks, Alyssa. I changed some text. It was very, very, very artistic.
Can I share what I got?
Yes, oh my God, yes. Is it Cheetos? Did you get a pack of Cheetos?
Well, apparently my daughter's here too.
Hello.
Hi. Oh wow!
I got an edible arrangement.
That is beautiful. Nice. Is it for Father's Day?
Yes.
You wanted to take it outside?
You can put it in the kitchen, sweetie. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was adorable.
Yeah, it was from my mom.
Oh no.
Why?
Are you supposed to do Father's Day on both ends?
I don't know.
Up and down the tree here.
I got sent fruit. That doesn't mean I have the answer to your question.
All right.
I was answering a different question, but I don't remember which question.
Yeah, it was just about tree shaking and components included in modules.
So I think as part of when Ivy was introduced, the ability to tree shake at a granular level was part of that, because it not only does it tree shake your client code, but Ivy also enabled the ability to tree shake the Angular framework itself, like different pieces of the Angular framework. So I believe that the tree shaking will take out like your unused component.
Are you boys okay with this feature? I want us to be completely honest. This is safe space.
We'll get to that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So regardless of whether it's tree shaking or not, the fact that we have to think about that or ask that question, like these are all things that we live with in this NgModule world, right?
Yeah.
But the last point was there was a time when we didn't have NgModules, right? Do you guys remember that?
Was this pre-2?
I think it was at the start of 2 or maybe pre-2 in like a beta, right?
You think some version of 2 didn't have modules? I need to go back and look. That's sick.
Version 2 launched with modules.
Did it?
Prior to that, the concept didn't exist. It came into play in the last 3 months prior to launching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like the big thing, that there was this pattern of doing imports and stuff at the component decorator level. And then the NgModules came into play. And then it was like, do we want to go down the NgModule route? And here we are. So anyways, there was a time. So now when we revisit the standalone components, if you were playing with this stuff at that time, that beta before, this might look a little familiar to you. So there we go. On to the next one. So now with standalone components, we have this essentially NgModules are optional, right? We could still do the NgModule pattern that we're doing today, or we can start being free of it with these standalone components.
But that being said, the two ecosystems with modules and without modules can coexist.
Yes.
So you can work with modules and without modules in the same project.
Is this the point in the conversation at which Alyssa gets to ask a really annoying question about
No.
if it's really modulus or if it's faking modulus? Just like, you know.
Implementation detail. That's something that does not surface to us as Angular developers. That would be a framework.
Did you just say it doesn't matter, Alyssa? Stop asking questions. Is that what you're saying with your mouth?
The first part, yes. The second part, no.
No.
Okay, cool.
All right. So now we can declare imports in the component decorator, right? So we'll take a look at that here in a second. And we can other components and modules as well can go inside of that import statement, right? And we can import the component into other decorator import lists as well. So now, like, we can directly, you know, before this, we could only declare our components, right? We could put them as part of declarations, and we could put them part as exports, but we couldn't import a component, right? So now we can. Basically filling the gap, the footprint of what we do with an NgModule. Now we can just also do the same thing with the component, right? If the component is telling Angular that I'm a standalone component. So we'll take a look at that too. And we can even bootstrap a component now. So, you know, we're used to bootstrapping our application. We bootstrap, you know, like an app module or a starting NgModule. We could start with bootstrapping a component. So while it was components all the way down before, now it's like really components all the way down, I guess. I don't know. You could just be all components all the time. So there we go. Should we look at some code and stuff on that?
Oh my goodness.
I want to look at all the codes.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So let me share.
Yeah, at the conference I was just at, it was like .NET heavy, but there were quite a few JavaScripters. I was surprised. And one of them was talking to me about how they were like with us back in the Angular JS days. And they're like, I don't know. When they went to Angular 2, I feel like it should have just been named, you know, Bob or anything really other than just not Angular, because it was so different. I'm like, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Oh man, I was so excited.
All right. So I'm just going to reference the wonderful Angular.io site, angular.io. They have a great write-up of standalone components, and we're just kind of going to go through these pieces here to see some example code. And we can also, I believe that Mike has some sample project that he's been hacking around on, so we can also switch to that as well. Just give me a heads up, we can do that. But basically, right now, we can see that now in the component decorator, there's a standalone property, and we can set that to true. And when we set that to true, we're telling Angular, hey, this is a standalone component. As we can see, we have, you know, an imports property as well. We can import other things. So it's similar to like our NgModule. We can import, you know, other components that are standalone components. We can import NgModules and things like that here as well.
Can you put this URL on the screen?
Yes, I absolutely can. Everybody can kind of follow
along. Hi, chat.
Along.
I do see you now. I didn't have you pulled up before, but I do see you, chat. Hi, it's good to see you. We are. Hardington was asking if we're talking about 14. We are.
I already answered that.
Did you? You act like I read as fast as I talk. It is not true.
All right, how's that? Boom. Okay.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Yeah. So setting up that property, standalone true, allows you to do this. Again, we can use existing NgModules in here. So you can see we can import another NgModule that our component needs to use. If that component needs to use components from that NgModule, directives, pipes, whatever, right? Boom. And then we can see that we can import these right into other import statements in other things. So like if we have another NgModule and we want to start bringing in our standalone component, we just add that component type to the imports statement.
Yeah,
and the same way we would add a module, right?
And I think that's an important piece. So just to be clear, the photo gallery component is the one we were talking about above, correct?
Yes. Let me scroll back up. So it's photo gallery component.
Okay.
It's a standalone true. Yep.
Yes. So just to be clear, so what we're doing here is adding that as part of this NgModule, but notice that it's not part of the declarations. It is imported, not declared. Because it is standalone, it cannot be as part of the declarations within the NgModule.
Right. So with the standalone, we're not declaring it anywhere. We're treating it almost as if it's an NgModule, right?
I think it was.
That's how I kind of.
It was one of you guys that told me, and I actually have it. Please don't laugh. I mean, you can laugh. It's fine. I have it written on the inside of my phone case so I don't forget it. You told me that declarations are what it owns and imports are what it uses. Because it's just like so many times and I'm like, oh God, I don't know if like dyslexia and the component declarations. So now you're saying it doesn't go in the declarations because it doesn't own it?
Yeah,
is that
standalone, right?
proper-
So it owns itself, I guess.
And it's very independent.
It is.
No, I think that still holds true.
Okay.
That this module is declaring that it's using something called the album component, and it's also saying, hey, you can use it too because it's exporting it. But it importing is saying, hey, I'm going to use this thing. I'm bringing it in from somewhere else, and I'm going to be able to use it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that still holds true, even though it's a standalone component.
I like it. I kind of want to start calling them independent components, just like they're liberated. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah. All right. So we can also bootstrap that component, right? So normally we're bootstrapping an NgModule. We can actually bootstrap a component. So we can see here, we can use this bootstrap application API function call, and we can pass it the standalone component, and it can start our app up starting with that component as the root component.
That's so it's
process it.
It's totally fine. I'm like, that's all you need. You literally just pass it to the Bootstrap application, and then that's going to be the root one. Like, there's no other bits.
Well, no, there are other bits. I'll scroll down
good.
in a second.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I was like, hold on, wait a minute.
So I think though, like it's if you want to start your application with a standalone component as being the root component that you start with, right? Then this would be it. You could still have an NgModule as your root startup thing, right? And internally in that could have some stuff.
Like have standalones or have not standalones. Okay.
I think this will be a good question of like, as we start diving into using standalone components, how far do we take it? And are we like moving towards like, should we be thinking about bootstrapping a standalone component and doing it everywhere, or are we bringing it together in places?
Shorty, if you had everything that was standalone, is there like there was absolutely nothing with modules in your Angular app, would something break? Would it not? Is it going to be okay? Like routing, everything's fine. Like does it?
Spoiler alert: when we show my code, I'm not using any NgModules.
Okay, so you can. It is possible. It's not like you need a couple.
I think that's part of like the whole developer preview thing, right? Is like, okay, let's see where people take it. Let's see how intense it gets, right? If you start an app that has thousands of components and a big, large app, and you start going that route, is it ready to handle all that, right?
Okay, yeah.
I think from what I've seen, there's a lot of it just becomes like this thinking about how you're configuring things, thinking about how you're setting up your dependency injection and your, imports and things like that. And now, it's interesting because now I'm thinking about, we do that with NgModules. We talked about that in the first slide, right?
Mm.
We're still going to have to do that at some level here with standalone components. So it's like the architecture, the thinking about relationships of all of that code is still there. It's not completely going away. It's just almost kind of like done in a different way, right?
Oh, I'm so excited. I love new things. Also, I want to say hi to Yash and Balaji, and Jalito was asking, I think a couple times, if we're on Twitch. Have we ever been on Twitch? Is that ever a thing? Were we at one point in time?
We were not with AngularAir, but we could be if
we
it
could
made
be.
sense. Like,
I just sometimes I get things confused, so I'm like, were we? Was this a thing? Okay, cool. So no, we've always been on the tubes. So
yeah, but we can explore that if people would like to watch us on Twitch at the same time, because we could probably broadcast to both places. So
that was another conversation I had at the conference about how they were, because I like to promote my Twitch channel whenever I'm like leaving, like signing off. So I'll throw it up there and be like, find me on Twitch. And people are like, I thought that was for gamers. And so it's surprising that, yeah, the coding community on Twitch is really blossoming. I love it. But
it's like the coding chat on Discord. Same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. So like when we talk about bootstrapping the application with the standalone component, then we need to start thinking about, well, we're not bootstrapping an NgModule that may have providers and things inside of it. So how do we deal with that? So now we got to, think about that orchestration. So there's some ways to do that. We call it bootstrap application. You can pass in an object literal and have, providers property and start, defining some providers and things like that you may need to do.
Why is that needed again? Sorry. What?
So when we have a standalone component, and we saw briefly that the standalone component can have its own imports as well, but at some point you may need to configure other providers and things like that as part of your core app or whatever level you're doing it at, right? So now we might need to start thinking about how do we orchestrate that, because NgModules were kind of like the thought process of how we would orchestrate that.
Yeah.
Right. The NgModule would have components inside of it, decorator or directives, pipes, and other providers and things. And that would be like our bundle of how we say, here's all the stuff that's needed.
Like other frameworks, because, this is something that really sets Angular apart from other front-end frameworks, is the modules. Is this how React and Vue and other frameworks handle?
Well, let me ask you this question.
This problem
that may be a differentiator between Angular and other frameworks, but is it a good thing?
Which part? Oh God, I'm lost.
You said modules were a differentiator between Angular and other frameworks.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Well, I mean, someone made a joke about whenever v14 hit, and they were like, "Oh God, we're moving to the one framework, like where all frameworks look the same." And I feel like that seems inevitable if we're all onto the right thing, like if we're all actually solving the same problems in the proper way. Like, I think there's always going to be some syntax or API differences, but I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But I don't know, Mike, I feel like, do you think it is? Do you think it's bad?
NgModules were brought in as a concept to organize and facilitate building. And I think that they serve their purpose and they did what they needed to do.
Served as in past tense, or serve?
Maybe.
Asking the tough questions. I like it.
But I think that as our tooling has evolved and the way that Angular itself is structured and the build process that's available to us, that it's not necessary anymore. So I say served, I'm going to go with served because I don't think it necessarily needs to be there.
Final answer
anymore. And I think standalone is going to be a healthy option moving forward.
So are there parts to the module that we be missing? Because we can bootstrap and we've got the provider and we're like, here's my imported goodness, but is there anything else? Are we missing any bits?
I think that's TBD, right? As we start kind of playing with it and experiencing it. Some of the things that I can just kind of initially think of in my mind is like, let's say I have 3 components and they want to share some stuff, some providers, some services or something. How am I going to orchestrate that in one spot, yet use them in the others, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so I think it's all a matter of, how are you architecting and orchestrating all these bits and pieces of the app as a whole, and then these features and whatnot. That's going to kind of reveal, the ergonomics of it. Does this feel good? Am I able to pull off what I need? Or now when I get into the weeds of it, I need to do X, Y, Z, and it feels kind of a little rough to try and pull that off with standalones. I don't know if it is or not. I'm just like projecting. Like these are things I'm going to be thinking about as I start playing with it more.
Yeah.
Right. To kind of reveal. Yeah.
Jolita was saying, I believe you just need the first import in React and Vue. Was there anything beyond that our current implementation was suggesting? Because it was like,
so
provide and then import. It was just that, right? Like
conceptually, it's the same idea, right? The idea of saying, all right, hey browser, this is how you get to all my code. And it's a single point of entry, right? To say, hey browser, here's my application.
I like when he goes to the accent.
I do too.
Get all my code.
Yeah. No, it's like there's always that missing piece for me, because like I was doing a .NET Maui talk, and of course, it's out of preview and I don't know C# or anything about .NET, but they were like, do you want to do this talk? And I was like, yeah, I want to do this talk. So I'm trying to get my code working, and I make this like config file because I don't know why it just wasn't generated with the app. And my husband looked at my code and he goes, I'm pretty sure nobody knows about that config file. Like it's just sitting there. And I'm like, oh crap, you're right. Like it's nobody. So you're right, Mike. Like we do need to think about, hey, this code exists, and, making other people aware that this code exists. I love it. I love it. Look at you, Mike. And also, what's your hat say? I can't read it. Outer Banks. Oh, did you get that on the trip?
Outer Banks? Yes.
All right.
He got that from finishing the mac and cheese bowl. All right, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. Okay, so Jolito, just to clarify, I think I was like hosting one day and I like streamed to my Code It Live Twitch channel just for funsies. Sorry about that. That did happen. You're right. My bad.
I didn't know that.
All right, so
I probably
the routing.
didn't tell you. Were you saying the what? The routing?
So there's new routing stuff. I'm actually really, really excited about this stuff. Maybe a little more excited than the standalone components, but that's kind of the same thing. So,
I'm so excited.
But we can lazy load a component now with load component. So like when we do the load children and we lazy load an NgModule, now there's a way to do that with a property on our route config to be able to lazy load our standalone components.
Mike. Like,
I know I have a question, and you may or may not know the answer to this. So with load component, it's synonymous to the idea of load children, which was loading the at the module level. Does that require that the component you're specifying is a standalone component?
That is a great question. Does your sample project have that in there?
No, I don't have any modules, so everything's standalone in my project. So I don't know the answer to that. I just didn't know if there was anything that you happened to come across that said that. But it would make sense that it has to be, because otherwise that component would be part of a module that would then also have to try and figure out which module and pull that in.
Unless the module is already declared or imported at that route level. All right. We're digging deep.
I don't know the answer to that.
That's a good question, though. All right. So I have this number 2. I'm here all day for number 2. I can lazy load an array of route configs with load children. So we can do load children and lazy load a array of route configs. When I talk about route configs, it's the object that we create that has a path and a component and whatnot, right? And we put those objects into an array, and then that's our route config array list, right? We can actually use load children and point it to an array and have it lazy load those. So I'll pull that up here in a second. I mean that's crazy to me. It's awesome to me. So
making a sticky note of it so I can play with it after the show.
And then we can the providers array can be used on a route config even without load children, but can do it with the route config load as well. So yeah, I think we just need to look at some code here because
I want to see.
this is
That sounds
intense.
cool.
So let's,
Chow was saying
nice.
to Jolito, I was looking at the Vue docs and it seems like Vue has double imports for components as well. But I think I've seen some Vue snippets that the double wasn't needed. And then also Chow, I think you blew Chow's mind. And load component and load children can be used together. Oh,
That I don't know about that. That one's a good question. I mean, I know this is a good question. I don't know about the answer to that. All right, so let's see where we're at here. Yeah, so here we can see that we have this load component property that we can use on our route config object, right? And we can do our lazy loading pattern to do the import, point it to a component, and then grab that component type, right? So real similar to how we do with an NgModule, but now we're just pointing to a standalone component. Makes sense?
I think so. Yeah.
And so we have this load. I'm assuming we have this load component instead of load children, because the concept here is when you're loading the component, it's one component, right? But load children, that your NgModule may have routes inside of it. And so hence load children would be, hey, you may have one or more routes. But in this scenario, I just have the one route and it's to the component.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the lazy loading the route array of route configs, right? Using load children. So our load children that we're familiar with, right? We have this syntax for doing the import statement, the lazy load, let's say our NgModule, but now we can call this and have it hit, a file that returns, like let's say this is the file that's at this admin routes, right? It returns an array of route config objects. And so it's just the route definitions, right? And so we can lazy load those route definitions. And yeah. What did you think of that? I'm excited about that. I think that's like exciting stuff.
I don't know. Oh, hang on. Where's the lazy load portion of this?
So that would be this right here, right? We're doing this. We're doing load children, and we're using this pattern to do
the
our
dynamic
lazy
import,
load. But instead of pointing this to a NgModule that's going to return an NgModule that would then say, here's the NgModule, we can actually point this to just an array of route configs and say lazy load that array of route configs.
Oh, I see. I love this. Do you think all of this needs to be like, because I was thinking, would all this be defined in one file, or would this be separated throughout your app where you're like, here's my admin routes and my other user routes? Like, is this supposed to be like?
You could partition it. I would say that you can start partitioning this out into saying, okay, look, I'm going to load these kind of on demand, and how can I start segmenting out my code features and pieces? And now I can do it at this route config level without necessarily needing to build an NgModule that I'm lazy loading, right? Because right now, prior v14, when you want to load children, you'd have to set up an NgModule that would have the route, router module for child with these route configs inside of it.
I think this is going to be really hard for me. I feel like I really embrace the module with my whole heart. I'm like, oh crap.
But if you think about it, the components, services, directives, all of that is staying the same.
Right.
The component's still a component with the template and its styles and its logic within there. The services are staying the same. Directives still do what they did. What is changing is the glue. Of how do you stick these things together and tell the framework, hey, this is the component that I want. This is when I want to load it. This is this is the stuff that it needs to know about.
Do you think this is going to be an easier way of learning about the glue for Angular?
It's taking one item off of the stack of what you need to know in order to understand Angular.
Okay.
So instead of saying, hey, you're going to start, and this is how we tell the browser about our application, and it's going to load a module. Well, what's a module? Well, forget about that. We're just going to go directly from, hey, we're starting the application, and we're going to go straight to a component.
I guess it's just,
And that's tracing through code. That's not about teaching mechanisms or anything else.
right.
You don't have to glance over that. You can go look at Main.ts, and it's going to say, as we talked about bootstrapping, it's going to say, hey, go to this component. And then you can say, hey, that's where we're going to start. And that's where we're going to start traversing code.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah,
what
I think
we'll
that's,
do. And if we get to
this is one of the things why we always have this. There's been this discussion around NgModules from the jump, right? Of how do we feel about it? What does it mean? What are we buying into? What are the side effects? All these things, right? And because now we have this solution that's kind of non-NgModules,
Right.
but how do we get our mind wrapped around and tackle that when we're in an NgModule world, right? And so now how do you transition out of that and into something different? I think there's a good part about, like Mike said, it's real similar, right? So you kind of have a roadmap, and it's now, okay, it's like this, but done in this way. I think that'll probably help, but I think it still is kind of this challenge that we face of grokking it all and figuring it out, right? Yeah, it'll be interesting.
When you say that some things might change, do you think it's these kind of things? Like exactly how, or lazy loading and routing?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. That would be a question we got to ask the Angular team, right?
Because I know they're talking about, like, okay, what's next for standalone, and how do we, like, what do schematics look like, and the CLI, and how to, like, I know those are up on the roadmap, but like in my mind, I kind of thought like what's in the docs now was pretty safe. You don't think it's pretty? You don't think it's untouchable?
I don't know, but I do have my shorty sense goes off when I see developer preview and it's like
My
API
shorty
could change, and I go, oh no, I want to start using this, but I don't
Yeah.
want to go crazy with it because it would be
Right.
challenging if they
No, that
change
makes
the
sense.
pattern of how these routes are defined, and now I have to change all my code that I bought into, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But the other thing I think of, and a lot of people have talked about this and shared this on Twitter and things like that, is thinking about how could you start changing or refining your code now to get ready to use this without actually using it yet, right? So we talked about earlier about like the scam pattern, single component and module, and things like that. Like how can you start architecting your code that makes it a lower effort refinement to switch it out to standalone, so that you're ready to go.
You think if you do have like feature modules, one component, one module, that kind of pattern, you think that would be an easier application to migrate if you wanted to go all in?
Yeah, I think if you have your components, a single NgModule for each of your components, then you're down that track closer, right?
Already.
Because at that point, it's almost like taking the NgModule stuff that you have and just moving that to the component decorator, and then just importing the component instead of importing the component's NgModule, right? So things that we could do to kind of set up our code that are helpful patterns now with NgModules, but then gets us ready to switch over to standalone if we want to. Yeah. And even like, you could do that change in some places and things like that and see what it's like, I think.
Rares is making me laugh. I don't think that's an option for many people. He said, I feel that what if the API changes? That's why I never maintain my apps.
A quote I heard a long time ago is that if you're working on the bleeding edge, it's you that's doing the bleeding.
Oh man, can I tell you that is true? Yep.
Yeah.
I for some reason I'm like, I get so, I think it comes with being a developer advocate, but like I get so excited about different features, and I'm just like, yeah, I need to use this on stage literally the moment it drops. And that's been painful a couple times. One time it was with animations in Angular. The team was like contacting me, and they're like, it was literally hours before I went on stage, and they're like, we changed the API. And I was like, you cannot do this to Alyssa. Yeah, it happened.
Yeah. Yep. Always these things got to be aware of. All right. So we talked about the fact that like we can provide at the route level, using this provider's property in our route config. And so if we need to set up, orchestrate these providers of these things that our components might need and use, these child components. We can do that at the route level, at the route config level now. So that can be handy. I think this is where we start getting really deep into like these other changes and what that means. And so it's probably for another discussion, right?
You were saying you were so excited about like the routes and upcoming changes, but like it's only revolving around like the standalone, right? Like it's not like there's like if we put standalone in a box, like there's not other also new introduction, right? Like is it just
there were some other things that came new with 14 that aren't part of this discussion, but standalone's the big one that most people are talking about.
But I think like some of these things that we can do with the route config now, right? I have to dive in a little deeper to see if this is only working when, like I think this one, the load component's only going to work with a standalone component, right? Okay. But maybe this load children in the array of these routes, let's say these routes had, an NG module or something, or I don't know, maybe there's some way that like we can still leverage these changes
even within your current app.
Not necessarily, standalone. Yeah. Maybe it's decoupled from that and they kind of just live side by side.
The team looks at you and goes, that was not what we meant it for.
Right. Well, I'll get pinged here in a second, right? Why are you presenting this on AngularAir talking about this? We're changing it. Yeah, I know. We'll see. Exploratory. All right. So some of that stuff.
So the interesting thing is I'm looking at these routes. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about child routes. So admin/users, admin/teams will point at the users and the teams component. What component does admin point to? That's what I haven't been able to discern while looking at what you've had up on the screen here.
It might not. It might just be a top level route. Because we can do that in routing, right? We can just define paths and they don't have to load a component. They can just go to the child. So you're just saying that like, I want admin/users to resolve to here. But if somebody goes to admin, it's not going to resolve to anything.
Okay. So in that case, we would likely add a star route under children or a / or something like that to say, hey, just to handle admin, that's where it's going to go.
Yeah, Nuno was saying children array might need a default.
Exactly,
I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think that experimental features need to think about all use cases. I'm just putting it out there. It's just one of these, try this peanut butter on your sandwich. I don't know.
It's developer preview. We're developers. We're previewing.
We're previewing. Okay, that's fine.
Right,
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yep.
Oh, I really need to, we're running out of time. Mike, show your code for the love of God.
Okay.
Show you that.
I haven't
Don't
looked
make
at
that painful
week.
look at
That's
me.
Okay.
I need to see.
Am I still sharing it?
Eyes.
Yeah, you ready for me to share it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's do this.
All right, so where do we want to start? Do we want to start at main?
Yeah, I want to see it.
Okay. My main.ts is right here. So bootstrapping application is now taken in a component. It's not taking in a module. Actually, if I were to do a search for anything module.ts, I get nothing in here. I have no files with module.ts.
I know. Chow's like, what, 50 minutes already? I'm like, yeah. We needed 2 episodes for this.
I don't want to talk about the providers in here because I still don't fully understand what import providers from does. However, I suggest taking a look at it, look up the documentation and find out exactly what that's doing for us. My guess is that it's basically saying, all right, this is a module that, module with providers. And it kind of unpacks that and says, hey, go get the providers within that module and allow my injector to know about what is being provided there.
Because we, typically if we wanted to bring the router module in, we would import it, right?
Yes.
Sorry, chat's cracking me up. Martin made a pun.
So we accept all puns. That's good.
Yeah.
So we would import that module, and that module would then have a list of providers, right? And so if we can't import that module, then we need to at least grab the providers from that module. So I guess that's what we're doing here, right? Is import from providers from and saying, hey, go in there and grab out the providers because we want to use those things.
I think that I think that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, so that's my main.ts, and it points at my app component. Inside my app component, I don't have a whole lot except for the fact that I'm using a couple modules within there. Again, both ecosystems work well together. That I have a standalone component that is also using modules.
Yep.
Because it's using the router module from Angular and it's using the button module from Angular Material Button.
And look, I think that we're going to be in that world, right? Because if you think about third-party libraries and things like that, if they ship an NgModule and that's how we're consuming it, then that's what we need to use, right? So,
because Jonas just said in the chat, I don't think they should coexist, but I don't see a way around it for like a while.
A while, right?
Yeah.
Do you like my material header? Right,
the one that's commented out.
That I'm going to put that in there later.
You don't want to add like "we are hiring" to that comment so that people inspect the source and can be like,
no.
All right.
But I have a couple buttons. They're material buttons. Oh, I didn't actually show running this. My package JSON. I was actually creating this application twice. I was using solid.js here, and I have this one here that is running the Angular version. Hence the ng prefix, just to differentiate.
Solid.
I actually have it here.
How do you like solid?
I enjoy it to an extent, but it involves reactivity as well and observability, but I'm not familiar with best practices of how to set that up.
Oh yeah.
And to do other things with it. So
you're just so proficient at like doing that in Angular. I cannot imagine walking away from that skill set and being like, yeah, I'm fine now hunting and pecking. Like that wouldn't be good.
I wanted to I did it a little bit on vacation, and
okay.
I had a few minutes.
Does it look like Vue? I haven't looked at it at all.
Let's not get distracted.
Sorry.
It's in this folder.
It lives in that folder. Okay.
Wait, no, that's in here. It's under here. So you can see I've got.
All right, stay on target. Files. We only got a few minutes left.
I know. I'm not showing it. So anyway, I'm running the application. I can come in here. I can refresh, and we see that I have my component. I lost my template. There we are. That I have my two buttons, and I have a router outlet, of which I don't have anything rendering at this point. But if I click on one of those,
the route changes.
It will navigate to one of those.
You said you weren't changing anything, but you are changing something.
So you're able to orchestrate, right? You've got you bootstrapped a component that's a standalone component.
Yes.
You know you need stuff from the router module because you want routing. So
well, it's because I need the router outlet is what I need. I need to be able to use that component essentially.
And the routes, right? Like, do you have routes defined for this?
I do.
Okay.
They live here. And I forget exactly where I am pulling those in, but I believe it would be as part of my app component. No.
The mystery.
Is this on your hubs?
It might be. Where's this pull? Oh, main.ts is pulling it in. Oh, I'm pulling them in here.
Yeah.
Is what I'm actually setting up, that I'm starting this component and the routes that I'm supplying are defined here.
Okay.
So you're saying bootstrap this standalone component. I'm gonna need some providers. I'm not importing any NgModules, but I'm gonna import providers from those NgModules. Yes. One of the things is I need to go to the router module because I need the whole routes thing, right? So I'm grabbing the providers.
I need to tell the router how to work and what routes to listen for.
Right. And then in your component, your app component, you are importing the router module so that the router outlet element will be available, and you'll know how to process that.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then my app routes, then when I go to a particular route, I'm using the load component, which we already looked at, which is dynamically importing from here this module, not NgModule, but a TypeScript module. And then from there, it's exporting the this component class. So if I go to this file.
And that's where things get WTF, right? wait, TypeScript module, NgModule.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is just telling me that the prefix that I should be using based off of a TS-lint rule should be And actually, that should still work because I'm not referencing that anywhere because it's being instantiated by the router. So there's nothing that is actually using that selector.
Can you go back to where you're importing like your modules, like the map module and the
This,
I get the component.
or are
right?
you
The app
talking here
component?
with this?
that
Yeah.
one? So if Material was all like, hey, we're getting on board with Standalone, here's our component, not a map button module, would map button component also go in the imports line, or did we already say it's not going there?
Are you, sorry,
Yes.
what component would go in here?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, Shorty said
So,
yes.
so if map button module, if Material said we're going to export standalone components,
Yeah.
and so now you have this map button as a standalone component, then yeah, you would just switch this map button module to be map button component.
Yes.
Component. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And it would be an import, part of the imports array.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool.
And technically, I believe it's actually a directive, but yes. Or they would expose out the different pieces that we needed.
Okay.
At the
Like
level.
Mike, you should submit this as a talk.
To
Like
where?
you and Justin together, like with his beautiful
Whoa,
slides.
said
This
Mike.
amazing.
All of a sudden it's Mike. So
Sorry.
all three
Yeah.
of us, we all three of us should do
I
it.
feel like Shorty, you have to now. I'm sorry. Your slides and your explanations are needed.
All
So
right.
the restaurants one is here as well, and I'll just make that change. Just
So
to-
you're changing it to healthy because you changed your prefix somewhere?
Yeah, I think it's ESLint follows that up. But here, the prefix is defined here.
Ah,
For the component selector.
okay.
So it was telling me that I was
Right.
violating that rule.
Yeah, Chow like knows everything. He like anytime I ask a question, he's like answer. Even when Mike, you were like looking for a piece of your code, he was like main. It's in main. It's in main. And then you found it in main. And I'm like, you don't need this code isn't even available, Chow. Okay, like.
Well, it's because he's familiar enough that he's done
Knows
route
where it should
definitions
be,
for
yeah.
a standalone application and knows that the routes are. Or he was observant when I had this up and noticed, hey, look, you're bringing in your routes. Or a combination of the two.
Oh, this was such a good episode, you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you for showing all of this.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
loved it.
It's a kind of
Yeah,
little
and I'm wondering-
taste, right?
The idea that whether or not we want to take the logic for something like this, where we're bootstrapping an application, where for this component, maybe we do something where, and this is just me hypothesizing.
You're fired.
Right? That this is a function that is saying, hey, this component is bootstrappable.
Right.
And maybe we'll want to say, hey, this component is bootstrappable and potentially move that logic within here. So we could take all of this here. And I don't even know if this is going to work, but we're taking the app component dot bootstrap and calling it. And we're moving all that logic into here. We'll probably have to do some imports.
You're hurting my head so bad right now. What are you doing? What is happening? Why is this happening?
I'm thinking.
No, I want you to keep thinking. I just want you to use your words to think.
I'm using my brains.
That's parent talk right there. Yeah. You got a little one that you're trying to help understand what they're asking for, right?
If I come back here.
You don't know. I don't have a toddler. What?
But this
Not
does
been
work.
there.
Is the idea of saying, all right, instead of having the bootstrap logic of what we're bootstrapping,
Yes.
instead of putting it in main,
Yes.
say, all right, this component here is actually a bootstrappable component.
Okay.
So Angular is still going to instantiate it, but I can put a static method so it doesn't need to be instantiated and put all that logic right next to the component itself.
Did it work?
Yeah, it's working.
Show me.
It's over there.
We'll stop. Refresh. It should be broken. Actually, I'll just close the
Please
tab.
see this code. Like, I need to poke at it slower. You gotta share, man. You gotta share.
Where'd my... Oh, what was it?
Bootstrap's
NGM
the
run.
bootstrap, yeah.
What was it? Start ng. Okay. So if I come over here to localhost 4200,
Am I like just a nub for still using like NPM? I don't run. That's not how I serve apps.
how do you serve apps? And do you start?
serve.
Mike's in his
Andy, sir.
own lane. He's always in his own lane.
Right? What the frick, Mike? Hang on. Let me screenshot this.
Hang-
Don't move your thing. I'm screenshotting. Okay, I got it. So yeah, why do you start apps like that?
Because I have two apps in here. I have my
Oh,
here that
right.
is
2 apps
the
in one. Gonna need to
Yeah.
see this code. Yeah.
style
Mhm.
JS, and it's my Angular.
Frick.
Take that out before it breaks.
Uh,
Okay, but yeah, it's still working.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we should make a PR and tell people this is how you should do it, not the other way.
That was just a thought.
No, it is a thought that now will be in the docs. Let us.
Manifest it.
Can I try Bootstrap application this with a dot dot dot? Potentially, yeah. I don't see why not.
What do they want? What do they want?
Oh,
Wait, what?
I don't think this will.
Work there?
In the static. That's why you're gonna try it. Just reload real quick.
Yeah,
Did it? Is it happen?
it's still working.
Did it?
Because
All right,
this,
all right. This
still
is a
reference-
teaser for
Yeah.
for a future episode right here. Like,
I
we're gonna
know.
have to come back to this because we're over
Please.
time.
I know. I'm so sorry, everybody. We are. It's so cool.
But the big
So
thing is,
cool.
I'm able to lazy load routes, and I was able to bring in material by supplying the browser animations module here and pulling in the individual pieces that I want here.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So let me bring up the one more slide here. Let's do that.
I was asked about the Fire extension real quick, and that is power mode.
Yeah, he got me onto it. I have
There's
confetti
some other
instead
settings
of
down here for it.
fire. Highly recommend. Although, yeah, his settings are super important because he turns off like the combo location and the counter, which are obnoxious. Because I just like
and shake.
Oh, and no, I mean the screen shaking. Yeah,
Yeah,
those are very
has to
important.
be turned off.
It's-
So those settings.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll just wrap up with
But why though?
like this could be big, right? We've talked a little bit about this and things like that, but I think like what Mike was showing in that application, it's possible, to have less complexity to get started learning Angular, right? Less complexity to kind of start scaffolding and get going from the jump. So I think that it's hard. Like when I look at it, it's hard because I already know about NgModules and I live in that world. So when I look at that, my brain is diagnosing how is that different, right?
Yeah.
But if I step back and think about not knowing Angular and I'm presented with that code that Mike just showed, even minus the routing, right? And just start with that. That feels like a lighter level of entry to kind of start understanding and getting to the meat of Angular, which to me is like the components and things like that. So
I just worry that it like, Mike was saying that it takes away one piece that you have to learn in the beginning, but I worry that it takes away the shopping bag and now all we're left is carrying ingredients in our arms, like understanding. Because in my mind, I could just package it, dismiss it, move on with my life. And now I have to like know all of these pieces and hold them in my arms and decide where they go. And so that's the part that I'm worried about of like, does this really truly lower the bar to entry? Other frameworks though are all doing this. So I have to say like probably, because why would everyone else be doing it this way? I don't know. Right.
Alyssa, that's an amazing metaphor. I love that. I'm just picturing that. I mean, it resonates so well of thinking about the fact that like you got this bag and that's that NgModules and you're collecting everything. Now you're left holding everything without the bag, right? And orchestrating that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think some things are like as we start playing with this and in larger application code and figuring that stuff out, I think some of that stuff will start revealing itself, right?
Yeah, I'm excited.
The
The Balaji saying, "Wait, will be a next episode." Any guesses? I don't know if that's a question of if we're doing this for another one or
I have something in mind for next Friday.
You do?
I haven't
Can we share it?
run it by you two, so but I can run it by you two right now. Want to do that?
Yeah, I think you should run. Also, Mike was sharing his power mode. Chat was still
let me
asking
show
about
that.
it.
Yeah, it's all good.
I'll show that.
I love it, but I really do highly recommend you use Mike's settings for using it because nobody wants your screen.
Wait, it shows numbers when you hit the power.
Yeah,
mode?
that's the counter enabled and the combo location. That's the stuff that he's like turned off because right. Show him it's supposed to encourage you to like get more code done, but I can't with the shaking and
Have
see
you
that timer to keep typing. I'm like
Has anybody gone over 9,000? What does it do?
Oh my god.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
All right.
I don't have that
Find
kind of
out.
time. Hold on.
We don't have that kind of time for that. All right. Is that your pick, that power mode?
No.
No.
No? You got another pick? All right. Let's do picks.
I would. Oh, but also next episode, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Next episode. All right. I was thinking that we could do another type of discussion episode like this next week
Yes.
on the import function.
Yeah.
Mike's like, nah, I'm tapping out of that.
Mike, why you know?
But you have
I'm-
opinions, so
I'm-
that'd be great discussion, right?
Okay. So I think standalone as a concept has been proven out by a lot
of other
of
frameworks.
Yeah. I think it has a place in Angular. I'm excited by that idea. Import, I have different opinions about that. I'm taking
I'm
more
sorry,
of a
inject.
sit and wait approach on.
You're a what?
Sorry, inject. Sorry.
Inject,
That's
right.
import.
Thanks, Chow. Yeah, I meant inject.
Yes.
The
sorry.
So on
inject
top
function.
of life,
Sorry.
Chow.
I think that there needs to be a little bit more discussion and playing with it.
I think that
to-
discussion should happen live on air.
Yes, we can definitely
I
discuss.
agree.
But
I
I
agree.
don't think that I don't think we'll get to a point of saying absolutely this is the use case
Because
for it. I think
So
it's a tool that-
far with the V14 features, I'm like, yup, this makes sense. But then we start talking about inject, and I've never been more lost in my life. I'm like, what the frick are these? Because like there's just the arguments and the sides, and I'm like, what is happening and why? So I really want to have that episode.
my
let's
tease
do
for
it.
next week. I have two concepts that brought me to Angular. One is the separation of templates from code.
Yeah,
Two
hardcore.
is dependency injection for testability, and this kind of goes away from that. So
Well,
I
yeah,
can't
let's
wait
talk
to
about
discuss
it.
that because
Best episode ever.
my-
Come next week.
my excitement over it is the possibility of decoupling the dependency injection, the dependency on Angular's dependency injection, and thinking more along lines of these services that I can write to do business logic. That I'm gonna stop talking.
I know.
I'm
this
excited.
Is,
I'm gonna
this
talk
is
next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
Oh.
And maybe we can have a couple guest people come on and help us with the discussion.
Chow,
So,
for sure.
hit
Chow.
us up. Let us
Chow's
know
coming
if
on.
you want to join. Maybe we can figure something out. But
Yeah.
all right, I like it. And
Well, cool.
and the purpose of it is not to convince Mike; it's to hear Mike and
We want to hear
this
all
other
the
discussion
sides.
and try to figure out what can we be thinking about in terms of that.
I may not be able
Noticed.
to make it.
What? Do we have to reschedule?
My daughter has a concert next week.
Okay.
At that time.
Well,
We
so
gotta-
we'll
we
schedule
gotta
a different
schedule.
time when you can make
We'll
it.
schedule it for Mike can make it because I want to hear all your thoughts.
Absolutely.
On the subject.
All right, let's do picks. What picks you got?
I'll let you go first.
Oh, I have no picks. I'm sorry.
That was easy, Mike.
Okay. I have a pick, and my pick is actually Alyssa.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
No,
I'm like, yay, and you're like, oh no.
I don't know. Alyssa at NgConf will be one of the MCs,
I
and I'm
know.
excited to see her on stage for the entire conference.
Thank you. It was a really big honor to be asked to MC. And Frosty, for those of you who know, is one of the organizers. He was the one who invited me, and he was like, "Are you sure?" It takes a toll. It's a lot of energy. And I said, "I don't know if you know this, but I have a lot. I have a lot of energy to give, Frosty. So yes." So it'll be fun. I'm really excited and very honored to do it. Thank you, Mike. Sweet.
Yeah, can't wait. That's gonna be awesome.
Mm.
That's a great pick. How am I supposed to follow up that pick?
I got an interim picks then.
You have interim picks?
Yeah, to put in between that pick and 40
A buffer
All right.
pick. Do it.
Yeah, buffer pick. Yeah,
Throttle
we'll
down a
be down
bit.
to my picks.
All right.
All right. Shows that I've been watching. The
Ooh.
Boys.
Okay.
I'm almost caught up. I'm about like 10 minutes shy of finishing up the most recent episode that dropped yesterday/today. That's been phenomenal. Obi-Wan has also been awesome. And then on Wednesday, Umbrella Academy new season drops.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
I see. This is why I have a husband. He handles the
Backlogs
queue, the
Right.
backlog. I don't have to like what's coming out when. Like I just sit down and he turns the TV on. It's magic.
I feel like it's been so long since Umbrella Academy. It's like if I have to go back and work on an AngularJS app, I got to get refreshed of what it's all about.
Well, and I don't know, like some shows are really good about recaps and others don't provide anything. And so you're just like searching the tubes for like homemade recaps.
We will see. All right. My pick is the fact that the Angular DevTools now is available as a Firefox extension. So I think that's pretty exciting. So if anybody's been playing with that, the Angular DevTools extension for Chrome, there's a version now for Firefox. So I will put that in the chat here. And there you go.
Ooh. So you're a Firefoxer then, yeah?
I have a confession. I don't have Firefox installed.
All right. That's fine.
I feel like
should we? Is that I can make it happen. I just didn't know.
I could too. I could find the download and install.
I mean, if Shorty's picking it, that must mean there's something there worth value.
I'm picking the extension is now available for Firefox. So I have several browsers and I jump between them depending on how I feel the day, right?
That's because you're a good person and you don't like live in a bubble like some of us who are like, I will never leave you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
All right. Well, that's a wrap. Mike, we will figure out what time works for you. So we do this inject episode and we'll talk about that. And we'll catch everybody on the next one.
Thanks, chat. You were amazing.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. See ya. Bye. Psych, we're staying here for a little bit longer. Click the podcast button. All right, there it is. Later.